Hi, I'm
Please.
Robert Larriviere. I'm with This Is Jan.
I'm Melissa Fisher. I'm the writer, director, producer of Buscando, Alma.
Hello, I'm Alma Gutiérrez. I'm the director and writer of Lolo.
One of the recurring themes that I saw in some of these films is isolation. Robert, maybe I should start with you because that's where it was literal. Jan is isolated in this small, dark hotel room, and the notion of contact, which happens a couple of times in the film, is terrifying. It's disrupting to what Jan is doing. And so I just thought maybe we should take a minute to talk about isolation.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it starts with the time period. I think it was the only place that Jan could be safe to be themselves at all. So it made the most sense to put them in a hotel room for them to kind of hide themselves away there so that they could be free for a little while. But once they found that solitude, that isolation, they could build a little more confidence and invite someone else in, although they are hiding from them and keeping them at bay. But really, for me, most of what dictated that was the time period. There's no other way Jan could have been themselves except alone in a hotel room.
Lolo's almost dialogueless for the first several minutes as we see Lolo in the context of nature. Tell me about that version of isolation.
Yes, it's also because that scenario is happening in Mexico City, and it's another Mexico City that is more like in a rural area of Mexico City. So for me, that area that is Xochimilco is like the inside of Lolo, the personal space where Lolo can be themselves. So also it's some kind of isolation, but I think it's more like the where Lolo can be they, and also where Lolo can work themselves, like work with the vegetables. That for me is the interior.
And it's not until Lolo goes to the farmer's market that we start to feel a degree of tension, right?
Yeah, exactly. And to feel
they're
the society.
in their element out there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, our film starts with that beautiful quote about feeling as if you have this hole in your heart due to the absence of your mother. And so I think for Christina's character, it really boils down to that just separation from her mother, that it's been so long that she's been craving to be reunited in this way. And especially, we really tried to exemplify that with Alma's character, that whenever we see her, she's having a hard time connecting with people, both at work and when we see her at church, and when she's home alone. And there's definitely this feeling of isolation and loneliness for her character. I would say though, with Christina's character, we really wanted to show her kind of thriving in her life outside of this element of being disconnected from her mom. We didn't feel like we saw enough trans representation where that character has this incredible job and this really beautiful and loving relationship with their partner and this beautiful home. And so my co-writer and I, we really tried to lean into that. So I think obviously, yeah, her character does have this sense of hole in her heart due to the absence of her mother, but in her life, we really wanted her to be thriving and have these really beautiful relationships.
It's something we don't see enough in terms of non-binary and trans stories, which is to say, many of them just swerve into trauma porn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those are things that we need to see on screen to know that they're possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Hollywood's representation often just kind of glorifies those stereotypical, we've seen enough of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's time to show someone just thriving and living their best life. So that was definitely part of our goal.
Right now is a really awful time to be trans. There never has been a good time, but right now we're under siege. So for each of your films, why is now the moment?
I think for me, again, it's the time period. I've always been fascinated with life before Stonewall. I think we forget that there's a millennia of queer history of people leading wonderful lives, being happy, gathering, finding community,
Contributing
as
to
much
society.
contributing to society, and it all gets swept under the rug, which we're seeing right now. They're scrubbing Harvey Milk's name off of a ship, pretending like he didn't exist, but his legacy will always be there. And I think my starting point was wanting to explore that time period, and Jan led me to a place of community where people existed and they thrived and they found each other. So I think that's my big takeaway, is that we've always been here and somehow managed to be happy.
I think for us, for Buscando Alma, I think we really just want audiences to sit for 15 minutes in Christina's shoes and see the world from her perspective. And I think there's been obviously so much antagonism, so much othering that's happening. And my hope with this film is if you see the world through her eyes and really connect with where her heart is, you'll come to find that her life is not that much different than yours. She craves for all the same things and wants for the same things and fears the same things. And I really just want this film to bring people together in a space of more empathy, more humanity, more compassion. I think it's so urgent and so needed right now. So our goal with this film is really just to have people experience the world from her perspective for 15 minutes and just come to realize that trans people are just people deserving of every human right and dignity as anybody else.
And that's the purpose of art, right? Is I'm going to take you for 15 minutes, for 2 hours, for whatever length of time it takes you to read this novel. And I'm going to put you in somebody else's shoes so you can learn from them. Because maybe this is a character you wouldn't meet going to Stop and Shop or, just going about your daily. So be there for that 15 minutes and experience that and see what you learn, see what resonates. True. With Lolo, there's the cultural gap, the language gap, the cultural gap, and the gender gap that we're working on in terms of the things we were just talking about with Melissa, in terms of here, look into this world, come in, not just look, but come into this world and see what that's like.
Yeah, and also it's not just a cultural thing, it's also about as I said, the city, talk about this theme about a non-binary character in the outskirts of the city. It's also new here in Mexico, for example. I don't know if in your cities, but to present a story not in the center, not in the same places, in the same neighborhoods, the hip neighborhoods, but instead to talk about it in other places that usually doesn't appear in movies. For me also it was one of the goals in that project, to talk about that. And yeah, I'm totally agree with everything you said, to talk about the stories of trans and non-binary persons, not in the sad way or in the trauma way, but in the life, the happiness, the hope that we can find with friends, with other people that are same. I think that is the important thing to show at least in Lolo. It was my goal, the mainly thing that I want to show.
How is the situation in Mexico, particularly under the new president? Are things getting better for gender expansive folks?
In some kind, yes. But also is the cultural thing that there's a lot of machismo, there's a lot of transphobia also. It's the same. I think it's not just about the laws and it is not just about the politics. It's more about the education, more about the day-by-day working. But well, in these times, for trans and non-binary person, the LGBTQ plus population, we have more representation. Yes, in movies we have more representation, in Congress too, but I think that there's still more way to walk, because it's not enough.
As you were saying, with this character, it's sort of the beginning of a cultural conversation. Last question to each of the three of you. This is your chance. This is your Academy Award moment. I'm asking you to give shout outs to members of the cast, the crew who made your project possible.
Oh my gosh. I'm just trying to think how I could possibly abbreviate the list. Our credits have over 200 names of people who contributed financially to the film. So many allies out there, but mostly this film would be nothing without my friend Brooklyn, my college buddy who transitioned into her 40s and inspired me to look at what life might have been like for her in the 50s. And her story just took off like a butterfly and rippled through everyone who came on board. So mostly I just want to thank her and our wonderful actor, Lyle Bricado, who took on this role and did a wonderful job.
Anna,
Similarly, there's just way too many people to thank. But my first collaborator, Mare Flores, was my co-writer, and she's Honduran American and just lent such a gorgeous perspective to this piece. All of our actors, Carolina Gutiérrez, who's our phenomenal lead trans Latina actress, Jackie Briseño, who plays her mother, who played Alma, is phenomenal. Our whole cast was just wonderful, and our whole crew, my producers, Kai and Katie, everyone who believed in this project and helped us carry it forward. It was a long journey to get to where we are now, and just so grateful.
First to Rogelio, that is Lolo, because Lolo is a fiction, but a lot of the script was inspired by the life of Rogelio. So it was wonderful to talk with them and with they, and to incorporate their experiences, the feelings with the fictional part. A big thank you for that, for letting me be the person who can tell the story and to direct them, because Rogelio is not like an actor, like a professional actor, and it was the first job that Rogelio did, and everyone also the friends of Lolo. So thank you for and also for the producer Alejandro Moreno Novello, and also for my girlfriend, because she was the support, emotional support, the person, that you came home with a lot of things in your head, and she was always like, no, don't worry, everything will be okay. So yeah, we all need that kind of person in our lives, especially when we are doing movies and we are working with emotions, with a lot of logistics, production, money, a lot of things that sometimes is not it's not merging, but you have to do it. So that's all. And my cats.
I would not have guessed that about Rogelio. So please pass that along to them, because they were magnificent. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you, Claire.